The story of Dwayne Johnson is often presented in America as the ultimate success story, a man who rose from financial struggle and personal failure to become one of the most famous entertainers in the world. To millions of people, he is The Rock, a symbol of strength, confidence, motivation, and unstoppable ambition. But behind the massive fame, movie success, and larger-than-life personality is a man whose life was shaped by instability, rejection, pressure, and a deep fear of failure that followed him for years. Dwayne Douglas Johnson was born on May 2, 1972, in Hayward, California, into a family already connected to professional wrestling. His father, Rocky Johnson, was a wrestler, and his grandfather was also involved in the wrestling world. From the outside, it may have looked like he was born into fame and opportunity, but the reality was very different. Wrestling during that era did not provide the financial security people often imagine today. His family moved constantly across different cities in the United States, often struggling financially and trying to survive week by week. As a child, Dwayne experienced instability so frequently that it became normal to him. He later spoke openly about periods when his family was evicted from apartments because they could not afford rent. At times, money was so limited that even basic necessities became stressful. Watching his parents struggle emotionally and financially left a lasting impact on him. One moment from his childhood would stay with him forever. He once came home with his mother only to see an eviction notice and people removing furniture from their apartment. For many children, moments like that create emotional scars that never fully disappear. For Dwayne Johnson, it created a powerful obsession with never becoming financially helpless again. Because his family moved constantly, he struggled to feel fully connected anywhere. He attended multiple schools across different states, always adjusting to new environments and new people. Physically, he developed faster than many other children and looked older than his actual age, which often made him intimidating to classmates. But emotionally, he carried insecurity and confusion beneath the surface. During his teenage years, anger and frustration began building inside him. He got into fights, committed small crimes, and struggled with direction. There were moments where his life could have gone down a very different path. But sports eventually became an outlet that helped channel his energy and emotions. Football quickly became his biggest focus. Dwayne Johnson developed into a talented athlete and eventually earned a football scholarship to the University of Miami, one of the strongest football programs in America. For the first time, he felt close to achieving a stable and respected future. He dreamed of playing in the NFL and believed football would finally allow him to escape the financial insecurity that haunted his childhood. But life had other plans. Although he achieved success at the college level, injuries and competition prevented him from becoming the star player he imagined. After college, he signed briefly with the Canadian Football League, hoping it would eventually lead to the NFL. Instead, his football career collapsed almost immediately. He was cut from the team and left with little money, uncertainty, and emotional devastation. Years later, Dwayne Johnson revealed that after his football dream ended, he fell into one of the darkest periods of his life. He returned home feeling like a failure. At one point, he reportedly had only a few dollars in his pocket. The future he had imagined for himself disappeared completely, and he struggled to figure out who he was without football. That moment became one of the most important turning points of his entire life. With few options remaining, he decided to enter professional wrestling, the same world his father had worked in for years. At first, he resisted the idea because he wanted his own identity separate from family expectations. But eventually, wrestling became his new opportunity for survival. His early wrestling career was not immediately successful. When he first entered WWE, audiences did not fully connect with him. In fact, many fans rejected him openly. Crowds booed him during matches, and there were moments when his future in wrestling looked uncertain. But instead of giving up, Dwayne Johnson adapted. He transformed himself into a completely different personality. Confident, arrogant, funny, charismatic, and electrifying. That version of him became The Rock. Suddenly, everything changed. The Rock quickly became one of the biggest stars professional wrestling had ever seen. His microphone skills, confidence, humor, and energy separated him from everyone else. Millions of Americans tuned in weekly to watch him perform. His catchphrases became part of pop culture, and his popularity exploded beyond wrestling itself. For many fans, The Rock represented more than physical strength. He represented resilience, confidence, and the ability to rise after humiliation and failure. His personality felt larger than life, but beneath it was still the same man who once felt lost after losing his football dream. As wrestling success grew, Hollywood began paying attention. Transitioning from wrestling into acting had historically been difficult for most wrestlers. Many tried and failed. But Dwayne Johnson approached Hollywood strategically. He understood that audiences already recognized him, but he needed to prove he could become more than a wrestling celebrity. His early films received mixed reactions, but he remained persistent. Over time, he improved as a performer and gradually built himself into one of Hollywood's most reliable box office stars. Movies like Fast and Furious, Jumanji, San Andreas, and Moana helped transform him into a global superstar. Unlike many action stars, Dwayne Johnson combined physical strength with humor and emotional accessibility. Audiences trusted him. Families watched his movies together. Children admired him. Adults respected his work ethic and motivational attitude. But behind the public positivity was someone constantly pushing himself under enormous pressure. Dwayne Johnson has openly discussed periods of depression throughout his life. One of the darkest moments occurred after his football career ended, but there were other emotional struggles as well. Watching his mother attempt suicide when he was younger deeply affected him emotionally, leaving psychological scars he carried for years. Despite becoming one of the most successful entertainers in America, he continued battling fears connected to failure, financial insecurity, and personal identity. In many ways, his obsession with hard work came from fear rather than comfort. He often described feeling like he could never slow down because he never wanted to return to the instability of his childhood. This intense work ethic became legendary in Hollywood. Stories about his extreme schedules, constant training, and non-stop filming spread across the entertainment industry. To millions of Americans, Dwayne Johnson became the modern image of discipline and hustle culture. At the same time, he carefully built a public image based on positivity, gratitude, and emotional openness. Unlike older generations of action stars who often avoided discussing vulnerability, Dwayne Johnson openly talked about mental health, emotional pain, and failure. This honesty made him feel more relatable to audiences despite his enormous fame. His relationship with family also remained central to his identity. He frequently spoke about wanting to give his parents and daughters the stability he lacked growing up. Many of his emotional interviews focused less on fame itself and more on protecting the people he loved from financial struggle and uncertainty. What makes Dwayne Johnson such a unique figure in American culture is that he successfully reinvented himself multiple times. He went from troubled teenager to athlete, from failed football player to wrestling superstar, and from wrestler to one of the most powerful names in Hollywood entertainment. Very few public figures survived that many transformations while remaining genuinely popular across generations. Even today, his story continues inspiring millions of Americans because it reflects something deeply connected to the American dream itself. The belief that failure does not have to define the rest of your life. His journey proves that reinvention is possible, even after humiliation, disappointment, and emotional collapse. And perhaps that is why people continue connecting with Dwayne Johnson beyond the muscles, fame, and action movies. Because beneath the larger-than-life image is someone who remembers exactly what it felt like to have almost nothing. In many ways, his life is not just a story about becoming successful. It is a story about refusing to stay broken after failure.